Peace and blessings, everybody. This is Damon K Jones here, and this is the morning tea, where we do this every morning on Instagram, on X, on YouTube, and on Facebook, where we talk about health, wellness, mental clarity, spirituality. And this morning, I want to talk about, because if y'all have not been following my page, if you haven't been looking, we've been discussing, everything that's going on in the world, especially in Palestine and what they're doing to Palestinians, and the craziness that we do not actually think that those are our brothers and sisters. Those are brown people over there. And we call ourselves Christians, but yet where they're bombing is one of the oldest communities of Christianity, not just Islam, right? But also Christianity. So I wanted to talk about. Let me back up. I've been very disappointed in the silence of a lot of our community leaders, the silence of a lot of our Black politicians, and the silence of just here in Westchester, the silence of Black pastors, and being scared to be called anti-Semitic. Which, the truth is, brothers and sisters, Black and brown people can't be called anti-Semitic because we are the original Semitic people. We can't be called anti-Jew because we come from Jewish people. Jesus was a Black Palestinian Jew. That's a fact. That's a historical fact. And there's nothing to argue about that. And then when some of y'all Negroes talk about, well, I don't care what color Jesus is, that's just slave talk. Clearly, they cared because they made him other than what his color was. Jesus was a Black Palestinian Jew. So, and the fact that Palestine and Palestinians, the descendants of the Christ, is just being torn up, and they have famine, and the silence of the Black Christian community in Westchester County is really disheartening. It's really disheartening. And I'm not even getting into the politics thing, because that's a whole nother level, but I will discuss some of that later on. So I want to talk about the leadership, the faith leadership, the community leadership. Are we servants of the people, or are we puppets of politicians? See, in communities all over Westchester County and even nationwide, people struggle to have access to the services and resources they need. Despite this, many community leaders, including those in the faith community, have become very comfortable in their roles as puppets for politicians, prioritizing political interests over well-being of the people that they are meant to serve. When you see pastors getting jobs from Caesar, show me where that was in the Bible. And I'm not knocking any pastor, man, that's your business. But at the end of the day, show me where that was in the Bible. In Matthew 21:12, Jesus overturns the money changers' tables in the temple, demonstrating his commitment to serving God and the people, not the corrupt establishment. We're going to have a call to action for the community leaders especially those in the faith community, to actually follow Jesus' footsteps and embrace their role as servants of the people. We have to speak truth to power. We have to say, thus say the Lord, instead of, can you give me a job or some grants? Jesus even challenged religious authorities. In Mark 11, 27, 33, Jesus is confronted by a group of religious leaders who demanded to know by what authority he has been teaching and performing these miracles. Jesus responds with a question of his own, asking them whether John the Baptist's ministry was from heaven or from men. The religious leaders find themselves trapped, knowing that if they acknowledge John's ministry as divine, Jesus will question them why they didn't believe in him. But if they say that it was merely human, they risk angering the crowd who revered John. When they refuse to answer, Jesus in turn refused to answer their question, demonstrating Jesus's wisdom. Now, I'm not far from I'm far from being even Jesus, but there's going to be some foolish people that's going to question why I'm bringing this up on a video. Trust me. The difference between servants and puppets. Motivation. Servants of the people, like Jesus, are driven by a deep love for their community and a desire to serve the greater good. They prioritize the needs of the people over personal gain or political affiliations. In contrast, puppets of politicians are motivated by self-interest, seeking to please their political masters and maintain their positions of power. How many puppets do we know in the Black community? I'll take a sip of tea on that. What's the difference between servants and puppets is decision making. Servants of the people make decisions based on what is best for the community, guided by their faith and moral principles. They seek wisdom and guidance from God, just as Jesus did throughout his ministry. In contrast, puppets of politicians make decisions based on the directives of their political leaders. If those decisions may not be in the best interest of the people they serve, they don't even care. Integrity separates servants from puppets. Servants of the people that follow Jesus's example maintain their integrity by staying true to their value and working for the greater good, even if they face adversity. They refuse to compromise their principles for political gain or personal benefit. Puppets of politicians, however, may be willing to compromise their integrity to please their political patrons, sacrificing their value and well-being of their community in the process. We got to question sometime when pastors smiling and grinning around politicians in our community look like hell. We got to question why we got so many houses of worship in Black communities, and Black communities is like a living hell. I'm just saying. And listen, not all politicians not all pastors get into politics, and that's cool. But I'm talking about the ones that do. If you don't get involved, that's okay. But I'm talking the ones that do. I'm talking the ones that get jobs and then come out and attacking other Black people for their political master. Long-term vision. The difference between servants of the people and puppets of politicians is long-term vision. Servants of the people have a long-term vision for the betterment of their community, rooted in their faith and teachings of Jesus. They work towards building a society that reflects God's love, justice, and compassion. But puppets of politicians, in contrast, often focus on short-term political gains like the next election or getting a job, neglecting the long-term needs and well-being of their community. What's missing is true leadership and speaking truth to power. Just as Jesus fearlessly spoke truth to power, servants of the people, especially those in the community, must be willing to stand up for what's right, even in the face of opposition from those in authority. This means questioning unjust policies and practices, just as Jesus challenged the religious leaders who had turned the temple into a den of thieves. Advocating for the needs and rights of the marginalized and the oppressed, just as Jesus did when he reached out to the poor, the sick, and outcasts. Exposing corruption and abuse of power, just as Jesus denounced the hypocrisy of the religious elite. Promoting transparency and accountability in government, just as Jesus demonstrated when he refused to be trapped by the political machine of the Pharisees. Encouraging open and honest dialogue to address society issues, following Jesus' example of engaging in difficult conversations and challenging the status quo. I would like to say, as someone who has worked in the community for over 30 years, who has reported in Black Westchester the ills of our community, community leaders, especially in the faith community, it's time to step up and become true servants of the people. The people are hurting today. Our young Black men are dying to see strong Black leadership, especially in the example of Jesus Christ and what he gives us. They are dying to see that. The problem is they don't see it from the pulpit. They don't see masculinity from the pulpit. Jesus' example has set for us a platform to advocate for our community, speak truth to power, and work tirelessly to ensure that everyone has access to resources and services that they need to thrive, not just a marginalized few Negroes, but everybody. So we must be willing to challenge both religious and governmental authority when they fail to serve the people. And we must do so with the same courage, wisdom, and love that Jesus demonstrated. As I end this out, let me drink some tea. As citizens and people of faith, we must demand that our community leaders act as servants of the people and not puppets of politicians. Whether they are politicians on a city level acting as puppets of a county and state level, or whether those who have county jobs are supporting things that is adverse affect our community, or city jobs that adversely affects our community. Let us all strive to emulate the example set by Jesus. Can we do that? Because if we do that, our communities will be beacons of change. Now, y'all can't get mad at me because I'm using Jesus as an example. You get mad at yourself because there's nothing I said is not in the book. So either you believe in the book or you're a hypocrite to what the book says. So I want to thank everybody today. And we have to better examine our leadership in the Black community. And we got to stick behind Black leadership that is doing for our community and call out the ones that are not. And call even Black or white. Call them out if they're not doing for the community. It's your community. You can't say you're too busy or you're worried about your job. That's why nothing changes. That's why your community now is worse today than it was 30 years ago. That's why your children don't respect you. That's why young Black men are in gangs because they look at leadership as a joke in their community. Because they go into the white communities and it's nice and clean and immaculate. They're kids. They don't have a responsibility. It's easy for adults to blame kids for their own hypocrisy. Children don't control a city budget. Children don't control who gets hired and put in these jobs, and they don't know what the hell they're doing. Children can't go out there and fix potholes in the street. These are children. It's the responsibility of the adults. And we are failing our children. And you wonder why depression is so, and anxiety is so huge among Black children, because they could go to another community and it's nice and clean and it has businesses and it's thriving and it's safe. And they get to stay there for 2-3 hours, then have to come back to their community, which is tore down and ain't no love. And you wonder why these kids are depressed. So thank you again, brothers and sisters. I hope you have a blessed day. And thanks again for joining me for the morning tea. This morning, I got to vent on something that was on my mind. But I hope y'all enjoyed this. I hope y'all enjoyed this truth that I tried to bring. And I try to bring it in the morning, like my brother Larry Whittle says. Try to get truth in the morning early before society tell you lies. Peace and blessings. Have a blacktastic day. And remember, God is in your vegetables. Peace out.